がここにいるうちの本物のスクールスポーツのために行こうぜベイビーバンとの国は気をつけて、現実になることがありますからね。
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and continue the long-standing tradition of covering Japanese boxing here on True School Sports. True School Sports, the #1 source for Japanese boxing in America, from an American. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you to everybody for tuning in to again, showing support. And Hayato Kata, nice to see everybody here again, showing that love, support, and passion that we all have for this great sport of boxing. Now, guys, listen, I'm really excited to make this video. Because it's a really interesting potential matchup for the future. And, I have a lot of interesting history talking about this particular fighter on this channel because we've had back and forth in the past. It's all love, it's all respect, and I enjoy his contribution to boxing, what he's given to boxing so far to his career. And we're talking about Raymond Ford. Raymond Ford went on Twitter recently because one fan on Twitter pretty much said that Hayato Tsutsumi, a fellow super featherweight contender, who's getting ready to fight for the world title against Jazza Dickens in a fight where he's heavily favored to win and should become a world champion. Hayato Tsutsumi, one fan told Raymond Ford pretty much that that pretty much Hayato Tsutsumi is gonna beat the brakes off of Ford, right? And Raymond Ford took offense to that. He's really pissed off. And here's what Raymond Ford said about Hayato Tsutsumi. He stated the following, and I quote, he being Hayato Tsutsumi, he is getting gifted an opportunity because of who he's with. Let him win, and I'm going to come beat the shit out of him. Now, look, I know Raymond Ford's watched some of my videos before. I'm not sure how many of my videos he's watched. I'm pretty sure he probably only watched the ones that I make about him. But I've seen him comment on my lives before, so I know Ford likes True School Sports. I know he's part of the True School Sports empire. Shout out to Raymond Ford. And he said that he's getting an opportunity because of who he's with. Now look, Ford is with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is he's a pretty top player in the boxing game. So a lot of people could say the same thing. A lot of the guys ranked behind Raymond Ford could say that he's where he's at because of who he's with, right? But I feel like he's only saying that because he probably watched these videos and Ford probably hears me talk about Mr. Honda. Or he's heard that from somewhere. And I don't know anybody else who talks about like Mr. Honda and the Japanese boxing like me. So he probably heard that here on this channel. So shout out to Raymond Ford. He probably listens. But he also went up by saying, he also had a follow-up tweet because somebody told him that Hayato was going to beat the hell out of him. And he said, y'all always hype these foreigners up and then throw them away when they get stepped on. Same shit, different day. Now look, Raymond Ford, I think he's had a solid run so far at 130. But if I'm just being honest about Raymond Ford, he's been winning. And I think he's shown a little bit more pop at 130 in comparison to the pop that he had at, featherweight. I think he's a better fighter at 130 than he was at featherweight. However, he gets a lot of these early knockdowns, and he's beating these guys easy. But I feel like he could have been like against guys like Gabo Gonzalez, Thomas Matisse, Abraham Nova. He's beating these guys pretty clearly. But I feel like he still hasn't shown that extra bit of quality that I'm looking for. Like he hasn't had a great performance since the Otabek Komotov fight. He's had some good performances. He's handled his business and he's shown that consistency as a fighter, which I think for him is good because early in his career he had some fights against guys at that level where he wasn't looking so good. So I feel like the fact that he's been beating these guys easier at that level, it shows a bit of growth as a fighter. So I'll give him his credit there. However, he hasn't had a great performance since I was talking crazy about him when he fought Otabek Komotov. So finally he has an opponent. If he does fight Tsutsumi in the near future, which I think he will, because I think Hayato Tsutsumi is going to beat Jazza Dickens, who's a good fighter himself. Jazza Dickens is a good fighter, but Tsutsumi should beat him. And when Tsutsumi beats him, I think Ford will get a title shot against him. And that's going to be a damn good fight. I mean, you're talking about Tsutsumi. I think when we talk about fighters from Japan, I feel like he's one of the most complete fighters from Japan. And, just to link it back to Komotov, right? Otabek Komotov, who I was and still am high on as a fighter. He just needs to get the fights. Nobody wants to fight the guy. And that's why Ford gets credit because he fought him and beat him to become world champion in a classic fight. But Tsutsumi actually beat Komotov in the final of the Asian Games when they were amateurs, right? And I know amateurs is different than pros, but he did beat Komotov, right? And Ford beat Komotov, right? In a closer fight in the pros, different type of a fight than what Tsutsumi had versus Komotov in the amateurs. So it's interesting, just the fact that they have that, I guess you could say, common opponent. But stylistically speaking, I mean, you talk about Ford. When Ford is forced to fight in the pocket, he can fight, as he showed in the Komatov fight. He can fight very well in the pocket. Ford, I think, has above average speed. I don't think he's the fastest fighter, but he's definitely fast. He's got very good pop, especially in the first 4 to 5 rounds. I like the fight. I think the Tsutsumi Raymond Ford fight is going to be a really interesting chess match when it does come to pass. Because I do think it will happen in the future. And I think for the first time probably since the Komatov fight, Ford is going to have an actual, like, real dangerous opponent. Because while Matisse and Cabo Gonzalez and Abraham Nova, these are all good, solid, competent, professional fighters, these were not, you know, upper echelon elite talents. Raymond Ford, when you talk about the scope of the super featherweight division, Raymond Ford is an elite fighter, right? In terms of talent and skills and ability. Hayato Tsutsumi also is a fighter that is an upper echelon, creme de la creme fighter in terms of skills, talent, and ability. Now, we'll see more of that. We'll see. Tsutsumi might fight Jazz Dickens. Maybe he loses to Jazz Dickens. Crazier things happen in boxing. He's going to have a chance to really validate what I thought about him for all these years, and what a lot of people thought about him for all these years, as him being one of the top fighters coming out of Japan and one of the best fighters in Japan above the featherweight limit, right? And I think him and Ford is a great fight. I think by him fighting a guy like Tsutsumi in the future, this is the kind of fight that really could build his resume. And really, I would actually class Tsutsumi as a better win than Komatov. Komatov was a great win. Don't get it twisted. I'm not taking away from that win. I remember everything I said about Komatov going into that fight. Ford proved me and a lot of people wrong about Komatov, and I will forever respect for what he did in the Komatov fight. And it was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen live. And I was grateful to be in the building that night out there in the Turning Stone Casino. It was beautiful. Shout out to Raymond Ford. And we're talking about in terms of boxing skills. If we're talking about in terms of, like, because Komatov, I feel like he's a skillful boxer. He's got heavy hands. But I think Tsutsumi is a sharper fighter. He's a sharper fighter than Komatov. He's a smarter fighter than Komatov. He's got a better gas than Komatov. He's better in a lot of different areas than Komatov was. So I feel like it's actually a higher caliber fighter than Komatov was. And I think Ford beating him would do a lot. And I'm looking forward to that fight. And I like when Ford gets into this mindset where people, because now for the first time since Komatov, people are gonna start saying that he can't beat these guys. And even me, I'm looking at it as damn near a 50-50 fight. It's that kind of a fight. And I think Ford will take offense to that. He'll take offense for me even saying it's a 50-50 fight if he watches this video. And it's going to force him to go to another level in that gym. So I'm looking forward to that fight. But nonetheless, that's the news, guys. Raymond Ford is pissed off about Komatov when he's tired of the boxing fans. And I guess you could say people in the media like myself and others of quote-unquote hyping up these foreign fighters. But, listen, in boxing, there's guys who can fight and there's guys who can't fight. Hayato Tsutsumi can fight his ass off, and so can Raymond Ford, and that's why I think it's going to be a great fight at 130, So, nonetheless, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you guys think later on about Ford versus Tsutsumi for the WBA world title? What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe, and like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this, make sure you guys stay tuned and subscribe. You won't be disappointed.